Content warning. This podcast contains bones, blood, smut, and swear words.
Before we get into the good shit this week, we wanted to remind you that we've launched a Patreon. For just a few bucks a month, you get extended games, brand new content, access to our notes and murder boards, and much more. So if you would like to contribute to Hannah's dream of one day being cradled in the arms of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, you can head to patreon.com/frontlinefifth or follow the link in the show notes. Okay, now back to that sweet, sweet Bone Zone action.
Have you tried drowning, Hannah?
You would rescue me. Act 1. Welcome, penitents. Hello and welcome to the Frontline Fifth, a Lock Tomb podcast where newly minted toddler lictors explore the Lock Tomb series for the first time while a couple of dried-out bone witches cackle over how little they really know. We're currently reading Harrow the Ninth by Tamsin Muir, and this week we are cycling through all the possibilities in chapters 40 through 43. I'm Hannah, and I spend most of my time living in alternate realities, which is why it's so helpful to have here with me today my dear sister lictor Marie. Marie, what's your favorite party canapé?
So I regularly go to events at my college with canapes, and it's beginning to get that season again, so I've learned which ones are the ones. And so it tends to be the chicken skewers and the spinach puffs, if you know, you know. But also, I've learned that anything that has a crust will be disappointing.
I really appreciate your, scientific approach to this. You're like, I'm going to figure out which ones are the good ones and stick by exactly those.
It's just the fact that, over the past 3 years, I've gone to enough of them, and they have the same thing every time.
Catering doesn't stretch. Rough.
It's reliable, and it's good. It's good.
You know what to order.
Yep.
I love that. Also here with us today are the very blossoms of youth and thallergy, our littlest siblings, John and Brooke. Brooke, John, I take issue with Magnus's description of party food. So what's your favorite hors d'oeuvres?
Mine is egg rolls.
Yeah, those are good ones too. I forgot about those ones.
Love a cheesesteak egg roll.
Cheesesteak egg roll? Jesus Christ. Go more Philly, will you?
That actually sounds really good, though. A cheesesteak egg roll. Is that your favorite, John?
No, I was actually going with meatball arancini. Like the fried rice balls that you dip in marinara. But I do have a hill to die on this, which is that I think people's impressions of these are heavily characterized by how big their mouth is and if they can eat it in one bite.
Oh, actually, that makes a lot of sense.
I'm of the opinion that canapes should be one biteable. Anything that is bigger than one bite.
2 bites.
Maybe 2 bites if it's not crumbly, right? Marie said she doesn't like the crust ones. Is that because you bite it and the crumbs go everywhere?
No, it's because their crust is terrible. It's cardboard.
No, but that's interesting, John. I think that's really interesting. And I, for a while, sliders were all the rage. And that's just, they're too big.
Too much.
Yeah. My personal favorite, I'm here for anything, any bacon wrap date, anything with bacon and date or bacon and fig, and I'm immediately on board.
Nice.
Balsamic reduction. Huh.
Salty indeed.
Well, I know that over the last couple of episodes, a lot has been revealed. And I'm sure you have many thoughts. But if you had to boil down your impressions of these chapters into a single pithy sentence, what would it be?
For a certified bone witch, it seems like we've got some pretty impressive spirit and flesh magic going on.
Yeah. Once again, we were so close, but this time almost entirely by accident.
How do you figure?
It was completely a throwaway that Harrow had built a pocket dimension. I think I said pocket dimension.
You said the word pocket dimension.
Because it was
pocket dimension in the river, and I just about lost my mind a few episodes ago.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was just because I was watching a Dungeons and Dragon podcast or something that day, and pocket dimension was a friend of mine. But that was a throwaway.
Oh my god!
You said piece of Harrow's mind they chucked in the river to do the work.
Amazing.
Yep, absolutely crushed that. Let's go. We're putting a point on the board for that one. We're still drastically losing the battle here in terms of predictions versus things that have come true. There's a lot of points still out there on the board. So, we're not out of the game just yet, but we are deep in the hole when it comes to predictions of this book so far. We've nailed a few things, but we've gotten a lot of things wrong.
Mm-hmm.
A single pithy sentence is, I disagree with Abigail. I wanted to see where the coffee shop one was going.
The electric touch.
And my sentence is, I hope someone is taking care of Lady Pent's fern collection.
Yeah, what about the ferns?
It better not be me. I'm not a good plant mom.
Ferns are famously pretty easy, right? As long as they're in a hot, humid, shadowy environment.
Nope. I've killed a lot of ferns.
The only thing I can keep alive is the cucumber plant outside, which just goes crazy and suddenly it's pickles galore. So with that, our meme watch.
So obviously we have all of the AU genres. We've got the reverse roles where Harrow is the Cav. We've got the marriage mart, and we've got the coffee shop AU, which... Mwah.
Brava.
Yes, all of it.
We have the Berry Star.
That's hilarious.
Which is less than of a meme than just more of a like horrible pun, but love. We've got Princess Bride.
To the pain.
Over the moon about this because
That's
we've
what it was.
constantly made Princess Bride jokes, and I love that To the Pain is actually in there.
Yeah. Then, when Harrow finally wakes up, she is quoting the end of Gideon, which is the Book of Ruth. If I forget thee, let me forget my right arm or whatever.
Completely heartbreaking.
I just picked out for our SAT prep words that sound like they belong with the orchestra, but may or may not. So we have rattled. I didn't actually look these up. I just kind of went with vibes and what I think they are. I think rattled is, I don't know that I knew that. What do you think rattled means?
This is the only one I don't know.
Rattled with the 2 Ds kind of makes me think that you're unsettled, that you've been told something that is making you feel insecure, like it's a little bit life-changing.
No idea.
But I think that's just what rattled with T's means, you know?
Yeah, no, I thought it meant like you're looking rough, which is what it means.
Oh.
Of a person or their face showing signs of age or fatigue.
Okay, age or fatigue. Not quite shooken up, but yeah.
You're looking rough.
Ratty.
Yep.
Which is again with 2 T's. So are we sure that this is just a weird linguistic thing? They're probably the same word coming from the same root, but somebody decided it was, what do they call it, a flap linguistically? 2 D's sounds like a T.
Comes from rattle in the sense of rouge by association with its exaggerated use in makeup.
Huh.
Bullshit.
What?
Take it up with Google. So, tympanic.
So your tympanic membrane is in your ear. That's like how you actually interpret vibrations. And as our listeners cannot see, Brooke mimes playing the timpani in her little orchestra of one.
Fretted.
I mean, guitars have frets.
But to fret is to worry.
And then susurrus.
This is an iconic one, and this is a Terry Pratchett favorite, actually.
A suspicious dog constellation.
Nice.
Absolutely. That is the definition.
Well, with that, try not to get all your realities twisted as we present all the possibilities that are Harrow the Ninth, Episode 15. Absolutely not. Act 2. The Unfulfilled Vow and the Bloody Teeth of the Unkissed Skull.
This section of Frontline 5th is safe for anyone who hasn't read past Chapter 43 in Harrow the Ninth.
Let's recap. Chapter 40, Broken Ninth House Skull. Question mark as to the timeline. Harrow Nova. Cavalier.
Chapter 41, Broken Fifth House Skull. Question mark. Before? Question mark. Harrow Hark isn't good at parties.
Chapter 42, Partially Broken Fourth House Skull. Month? Question mark. Death? Lieutenant Reverend Daughter takes her coffee black.
Chapter 43, Broken Sunglasses Skull. One night before the Emperor's murder. Harrow remembers Gideon, an invasive soul in a river bubble. So normally we just discuss plot all the way through our chapters, but it only makes sense here if you break them up, so we're going to break them up. Chapter 40, here's the plot. Harrow Nova has been training all her life to be a cavalier. She had no choice. When she failed to be a necromancer and could not be heir to the mysteries of the Ninth House, she had nothing else to turn to. When no one would give her a weapon, she climbed the Anastasian monument to get the chain of Samael, cavalier to the founder of the Ninth House. And for this blasphemy, the Reverend Father whipped her until the Reverend Daughter intervened. I'm actually just going to stop here and ask our newbies, How were you feeling when you turned the page from the Epiparados, which is the lobotomy, and suddenly we're in what is so clearly not a real scenario?
Oh, no. When I flipped the page, I thought we were getting a different Harrow, like in the past or something, and we were going to get like a flashback to like hundreds of years ago. And it took me a while to like readjust.
I took the first 2 pages of this very seriously, and I was like, motherfucker, the murder board's going to be so big.
As soon as they talked about Ortis Nigenon, I was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of which, Harrow Nova has been denied the right to be Cavalier Primary to the Reverend daughter, who she hates. And so her only option is to challenge Ortis Nigenon for the role. And Ortis wishes he could give it to her, but he can't. The Reverend Mother and Father would never accept Harrow as Cavalier unless Ortis was dead, and he doesn't wish to die. And Harrow's like, yup, you're right. And it just strengthens her resolve to kill him. If she has to kill him, so be it. But before she can attack, Marshal Crux intervenes, cursing out Ortis. He's still actually very gentle in this version with Harrow, even though Harrow Nova is not the Reverend daughter. Swords drawn in the Cathedral of Deirdre, he says, you besmirch us, you sully us, you debase this place. So Ortis apologizes and goes off to the Reverend daughter's side. And Crux, is still being gentle with Harrow, but tells her that it would be pretty to apologize to the pilgrims that are kneeling in the back pews. And indeed, a pair of pilgrims have come in during this whole altercation. They're a pair of Fifth House supplicants, a husband and a wife. But wait, how did Harrow know that they were married? This isn't how it happens, says Abigail Pent.
At this point, my mind was just in a blender. Like, I was so lost, like, in terms of what was going on. But I do also appreciate the trope of, I know we're, like, this whole thing is just, like, AU tropes in to begin with, but also, I just love the trope of, that's impossible, that couldn't happen while I'm still alive, and then, like, the villain's behind them, it's just like, exactly, and, like, kicks them off a building or, like, stabs them. It's like, that, like, that's exactly what's happening here, like.
Did you catch on that previously, in, like, the first chapters, somebody was telling you, is this how it happens, or this isn't how it happens?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was in a blender until the last line. I was like, motherfucker, we're in a weird.
Like, this is broken. Yeah. This is something else. Yeah. All right. So chapter 41 immediately switches again. Harrowhark, trailed by Ortis and Aglamene, makes her way through the whirling colors and sounds of some sort of ball or gala. Harrowhark is very aware of how threadbare all of the delegation's robes and jewelry are, but luckily no one ever really wants to get too near the House of the Ninth, so no one else has noticed.
I love the description of how hard it is to get blacks to match.
It's really authentic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the party seems to be an opportunity for Her Divine Highness to choose a bride.
Who the fuck is that supposed to be?
The royalty of all the 9 houses are out in force. Harrowhark is like, I do not intend to compete. She refuses to flaunt her goods in the shop window. There's a great moment here when she just really would like to put her veil down, and Aglamene is like, a face will be one of the first things Her Royal Highness, looks for in a potential bride. A face is a prerequisite.
Presence of a face.
Also not competing are the 6th house contingent, who are all just kind of hanging out in a gray puddle at the side of the room with an outrageously stunning 3rd house princess, who seems to be having a great time, despite the fact that the rest of her house is trying to, like, pull her back into the party to get her to compete.
I love every description of Corona Beth.
The 9th house crew is approached by a man and a woman from the 5th house. Based on the color of her gown, it's described as cocoa, and also the subtle but very well-made clothes and jewelry. And Harrowhark greets Lady Abigail Pent, who says, to be honest, I'm quite sorry to crash this one. Which Ortis and Magnus both agree. And Magnus congratulates Harrowhark on her excellent approximation of party food. So Harrowhark at this point is, like, just very confused. And then suddenly realizes that actually there is no way she could have recognized Lady Abigail Pent by sight. And so Abigail says, this still isn't how it happens.
Wait, isn't it? It's also kind of a funny callback to Harrow cooking before with the too much salt.
Yes.
I thought so too, yeah.
I get the sense that Tamsin Muir is not a big foodie.
Maybe not.
This certainly could be. There's not a lot of food descriptions in anywhere in these books, really.
Or are we just modern fantasy been ruined by, like, the people following J.R.R. Tolkien's style of writing 8 pages about every piece of food George R.R. Martin. I was going to say the RRs love writing pages about food. Redwall, so much food. King Killer Chronicles, they talk about food a lot.
I think what you're pointing out, though, is that, like, I think it's pretty normal for people to consider themselves foodies. And this is almost just like a weird sort of, like, very distinctly not.
Not foodie. I said that the party seems to be an opportunity for Her Divine Highness to choose a bride, and you said, what the fuck does that mean?
Between this chapter and the last chapter, I feel like there are probably Easter eggs in them. Now in this book, we've had, like, many references to cuckoos.
Well, who do you think the Reverend Daughter is taking the place of in the first one? In the first chapter, they're, like, keeping her away from it.
Are we supposed to assume it's Gideon? Like to me, it's kind of like that's the only other figure that we have to fill in the blanks, even though in this alternate reality, she is not a necromancer, which presumably means maybe that they didn't kill all the other hundreds of children's. Like, not sure. Whatever.
Well, no, it's a switching trope. So I'm assuming the Reverend Daughter is Gideon,
who is described as a cuckoo. And then we also talk a lot about eggs. Like, we're describing people, or we're insulting people by calling them eggs, but we've been talking about eggs a lot in this entire freaking book. You stole my eggs and you lied to me. Is that what it is? Mm-hmm. Anyway, so eggs, cuckoos. We now have Gideon as either the Reverend Daughter, who's a cuckoo.
For the non-birders, would you like to, like, talk about what cuckoos do?
I had forgotten this because I am not a birder, which, you know, as we get older, we come closer and closer to becoming birders, until we inevitably fall into that pit. The other day I saw a bird and I was like,
I know so many young people who are avid birders.
True. But I think it also happens inevitably as you get older. You're like, that's an interesting bird. What is that, do you think?
What a cardinal call is because...
Me too. Do you have the Merlin app?
Well, no, it's just because I hear them outside my window all day because they live in my trees.
I thought it was just white smoke in the Vatican, but there's...
Oh, boy. But no, so cuckoos, lay their eggs in other birds' nests, and they are raised by the other bird, presumably.
Yes, they are, what are they called? Something brood parasites?
Okay, yeah. So cuckoos are not raised by other cuckoos. They're raised by a different bird. And the cuckoo mother who laid the egg gets to just go and fuck off, I guess, and live their best life.
Well, no, they will guard and make sure. Like, if you
is that what's happening?
Yeah, like people will be like, they'll say like, oh no, I saw this weird egg in like a robin's nest. Do not take the egg out because there will be like retribution. Because cowbirds do this too. Like, the bird is watching to make sure that the bird that got the parasitic egg in its nest doesn't kick the egg out. Because if you kick the egg out, the cuckoo or the cowbird will come and fuck your eggs up.
Damn. I didn't know that part at all.
Is the cuckoo just incapable of building their own goddamn nest? Like, whatever.
They will wait and see that the egg hatches.
Okay, but then they don't have to worry. Then they don't have to deal with the child rearing.
All right. So to go back to it, the only person who ever gets referred to as a disgusting little cuckoo and gets referred to that way multiple times, Harrow talking about Gideon. Like, Gideon is always the person referred to as a cuckoo. And so I feel like in this alternate universe, it's kind of confirmation.
Okay, so yeah, we have Gideon as a cuckoo. In my head, I'm thinking, when we think about Her Divine Highness, I'm thinking back to John's conspiracies, and that being Gideon as well, being Her Divine Highness, again, being daughter of God, the Emperor.
Yeah, like, for me, the big invisible person in these two chapters is Gideon.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's interesting to, like, one, it's this invisible force, but there are allusions to it that make it seem like it might be Gideon. And also I particularly like this Regency era marriage mart thing. It's a future romance, but not someone you actually know. It's just this faceless person. All right, so let's go on to chapter 42. The scions of the fourth house, Lieutenants Chapter and Teteris, catch up with Lieutenant Chaplain Reverend Daughter Harrowhark. I didn't know which order to put all of those titles in because she's clearly all those things. Lieutenant Harrowhark is a recent addition to the cohort and one that not everyone is comfortable with. So the fourth actually say that they heard that the cohort had to exhume a book on how the ninth work because there hasn't been a black friar in the cohort in 50 years.
I loved seeing the terrible teens here again with their little like asides.
It's the best. It makes me so happy because they are exactly who they are. You know, like at their core, they are who they are.
Well, I think Harrow asks, like, oh, did you need the services of the ninth or whatever? And like somebody's like, no, because who would?
Who would ever? Yeah, exactly.
I love this whole thing. I also was trying to figure out if it was like a meme about like nuns in the military. Have you seen like the nun with a gun meme?
No.
No.
You can Google that later.
Amazing.
Just nun with a gun meme. It's like sometimes it's a nun with two guns. It's like it's really anyway. No, I just love the fact that there is we had to figure out we haven't had nuns in here forever. Like we had to dust off the old nun book. Also, Black Friars, incredible name for a band.
Yes.
The other thing is that, Isaac and Jean-Marie are not trying to insult her. They actually have approached her with, like, none of the usual contempt or fear or, like, repulsion that she's used to. So they actually want to be friends. Isaac and Harrow are the only house heirs entering the cohort on the same footing. It would be good for them to know one another. Harrow Hark's a little bit iffy about it, but, Isaac and Jean-Marie insist and ask if she wants to go to the cafeteria with them. She does not, but she follows them anyway. And Jean-Marie asks if Harrow Hark has tried the coffee yet. Because apparently on these cohort ships, they beef it up with some extra stuff. It's bioadaptive reuptake inhibitors. They call it berry. Everyone's really excited because there's a new coffee adept, a new berry star. Wah, wah, wah.
Rim shot.
It's so fucking bad. Actually, one thing, if you read it through, you'll notice is Jean-Marie is trying not to laugh as she delivers these lines. There's a specific reference to it. Anyway, so Harrow Hark suddenly finds herself at the front of the line and looks up into the new Berry Star's eyes and finds herself tongue-tied. Their fingers brush. The Berry Star is taut and muscular with a crooked smile, red hair, and eyes that are absolutely not, says Abigail Pent.
Abigail Pant
Let me guess. You take it black.
is so clearly a mother figure across all three of these chapters. The warm, describing her dress as cocoa color is such an unnecessary detail that serves only to reinforce like how warm and sweet this person is.
We finally see the tweens again. Like it's just I don't know. It was really nice to see them again. Not quite as big of like happiness as when we saw Pal and Cam, but it was nice to see them again.
What was always funny to me was how much you two loved these characters and felt like you knew these characters, and like they got killed so fucking fast to the point where like from our standpoint it was kind of like, wow, you fell in love really fast with somebody who died really fast. Like that's kind of a funny thing to do. And I think this is where part of it comes from, is you don't ever lose them. You still continue to have like opportunities to see them and love them. And it makes more sense now.
And the fourth house really are so delightful and specific in their way of writing. I love the little asides, as you put it. In the first book, I fall in love with Magnus very quickly as the only person who entirely wants to welcome Gideon.
Yes.
Without any presumption and without needing to be thanked for it and without needing, he's wonderful. And you don't really meet Abigail at all.
So Marie just like having like such an identification with Abigail, and I'm just like, okay.
And she's exceptional. There's a part in the next chapters we'll get to where Harrow thinks to herself, like, what a waste that this woman died. What an absolute waste. She is something special and different. So chapter 43, suddenly we are back in Canaan House, and Harrow has finally remembered Gideon Nav, and she is consumed by grief and despair. It's an absolutely physical, visceral thing. So Harrow is, overwhelmed physically by the despair that has come with finally remembering who Gideon Nav is. And I think it's kind of interesting. It's not entirely consistent, but chapters 40 and 41 both have fully broken skulls and don't have Gideon. They allude to Gideon, but she's an imaginary, unseen character. Whereas chapter 42 has this like partially broken skull because it's the only one where she sees Gideon. And Gideon becomes real for her again. In the background, as she's like collapsed in grief, we're hearing other voices murmuring, "Are we stable? Another pull and she'll bring the children back." I honestly preferred some of those. No, better the rules we have.
Again, at this point, completely lost.
So everyone but Abigail leaves, and Harrow is sobbing and sobbing until she physically exhausts herself. And finally, she pulls herself together and has this conversation with Abigail. She explains some of what happened. She became a lictor not on purpose, and she defeated Cytherea, who was masquerading as Dulcinea, who, of course, is the person who killed Abigail and Magnus.
It was unpleasant. Look, I hate to ask, but did you get her? None of us are sure.
Interestingly, in this context, Harrow now understands and remembers everything that's happened, but she doesn't have her lictor powers. She's only the necromancer that she was when she arrived at Canaan House for real, some 10 months ago. To confirm that this is not another hallucination, she asks Abigail about her childhood bedroom. And I really actually wanted to emphasize this because Harrow can only know what she actually knows. She says that if it were a delusion, her invention of what Abigail's childhood bedroom is would be totally nonsensical. And I would argue the alternative is it would just mirror her own experiences too accurately. But this way she sees something new. And I wanted to point out that this is actually brilliant. This is the logic we all should have been using reading through this the first time. Because many of the things that happen in this Canaan House bubble are things that actually are not Harrow inventions. All of the guns, that's not something Harrow would have invented. She would have just had a bone monster again instead of the sleeper, right? The existence of this real and different Dulcinea and Protesilaus, who have very different personalities, those are things that could not have originated from Harrow's mind. Harrow would have just made an imaginary version of Dulcinea like the Dulcinea that she actually met at Canaan House, who was in fact Cytherea. So these are ways where, I did not pick this up. I was so mad at myself when we got to this point because I had initially started with the absolute certainty that these were an imaginary scenario, and it had at no point occurred to me that these were ghosts, that these were real people with real personalities and agency.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like we should have gotten it.
I think that's why it was so confusing, though, right? Is because, there's a portion of you that's oh, okay, well, this can be explained by, in the context where we do have to overwrite memories, this is kind of what we think is happening. But what the fuck? There was still always a what the fuck that you couldn't actually say that was what was happening. And it was because of this, right?
I'm so mad because we said this 5 or 6 episodes ago. It's just the only people that are at the Meanwhile Cat House are all the dead people. Uh-huh. God damn it. We were so close.
I think that's good.
This is something I'm still really working on because you're right. It's very easy to dismiss this as just a reasonable psychological response.
And it partly is.
Yes, it is. But because death is kind of fluid and doesn't, it also is ghosts. It's you can't explain it just as a delusion.
No.
Which I think brings up again whether Harrow's ever really been mad, which I don't know the answer to. So Harrow explains the whole story of her elaborate necromantic lobotomy. She severed the connections in her brain that related to Gideon, eliminating her understanding of Gideon so that she couldn't actually consume and fully swallow Gideon's soul. And she made her own skull into a construct to basically poke her own brain every time she was being triggered, which is why she kept getting those cerebral hemorrhages and bleeding out through her nose and her eyes and stuff.
Wild.
So that's fascinating, obviously. But it's actually not what Abigail wants to know. Abigail wants to know about the invasive soul. That's right, people. It's all about the ghost agenda. Because Harrow has been and is being haunted by another soul. So this is kind of the core of what's happening. Harrow subconsciously, as an effort to scrub over the holes in her memory, made a bubble in the river, just like Palamity's bubble. I was so convinced that after we learned about Palamity's bubble that you guys were both going to call this immediately.
Especially with, I would like to again point out John's quote, "The piece of Harrow's mind that they chucked in the river to do the work."
Again, I'm giving myself a point for that. I think that's close enough.
I can't tell you how many text messages I got after you said that. All right. So basically, she built this bubble, but these are important details, right? She structured it and gave it rules and called back ghosts to play parts in what is effectively a play.
So is that what we're talking about with the children? Are they talking about the fourth house teens ghosts?
Yes.
Yeah, because Abigail keeps sending them out. She doesn't want them to be pulled into the bubble. She sends them out. And that's kind of why they're giggling, because they got pulled back in for this ridiculous AU, and they are playing a part.
Yeah.
But is she just trying
funny.
to protect their souls from being in part of this like play that's gone dangerous? Is that what's happening?
Yes.
Okay.
Because she doesn't know because they're being haunted by an invasive soul, and she's trying to keep them away from the danger of the invasive soul. So she doesn't want the teens there, and she's trying to send them out and keep them out of this. It also explains why, like, Cam and Pal were so weird and, like, killed off so early, because they couldn't actually be there.
So this is something I think interesting. In all of the Canaan House, meanwhile back at Canaan House, River Bubble things we've seen, the only people who ever talk are actual ghosts, are like ghosts with agency playing their parts there. We see Judith dead. She's alive in the real world. We see Cam and Pal dead. They are alive in the real world. And we see Silas push Coronabeth silently over the edge, and Coronabeth is alive in the real world. It's a weird scenario. And then Silas is a ghost, of course, but didn't want to play.
This is why we don't see Colum, is he got fucking
because we don't know what happened.
He has some other thing going on.
His ghost got fucked.
Isn't that fucking wild? But this is part of why I actually feel like it's almost impossible for you to, like, count and be like, all the dead people are there, because they're not quite.
Yeah, because you watched Palamides be blown up.
But he's secretly got his soul secreted away in a different river bubble.
There's no ghost to pull back,
So this bubble more or less only runs when Harrow is subconscious, or as in this case, when she's bleeding out on the floor, stabbed through with her own rapier. On this side, in the bubble, time is kind of continuous. Unfortunately, Harrow's little play is being hijacked. The cold and the snow are potentially explained by the fact that there is no good weather in Harrow's brain. But the rest of the insane weird stuff, all these like tubes and organs, and the existence of the sleeper killing people, that's all because an invasive soul is trying to take over the reins of this play. So I will give you Harrow's masterful summary of the situation. I have been fatally stabbed. The place that holds my body is about to be overrun by thanergetic monsters created by a galactic revenant. I am, put bluntly, on the verge of death. My soul is under siege, and I overwrote my real memories with a ghost-filled pocket dimension which has now apparently been co-opted by some kind of poltergeist. I am stuck here, and I am about to die.
Not a particularly positive glass half full perspective.
Glass none full.
Brooke, and maybe we talk about this in reckless speculation, but, like, who do we think it's the, like, are you on board with my theory now that it's the spirit in the sword is doing the haunting, or do we think it's the body doing the haunting?
We have three options that I posted in Rampant Speculation.
All right, well, sorry, we'll get there.
I think we should all, really enjoy this moment because we finally got some answers. They weren't the ones we wanted, but we have them now. I think we all deserve a game. Interstitial. I would never compete with my face. All right, this week for our game, we actually get two choices. Either we can build out what would have happened in any of these alternate universes, like after the point where Abigail shut it down, or we can pitch our own. And I have a list here of possible classic alternate universes that people apparently make in fan fiction.
Oh my god. Okay.
I am a prude, so I would prefer to stay away from some of the more porny ones.
You mean the Alpha Beta Omega Society?
What is that?
Those are werewolves, right? Or something? Isn't that always what it is?
Oh, yeah, we'll stay away from that.
Yeah.
Because I know nothing.
Oh, you're saying BDSM. What else is on this list?
Wow. Yeah, a surprising amount of these are porn.
Let's do
Or
like Dark
porn adjacent.
Academia.
Okay.
I don't even think that's on here, but it's...
Should we let's pitch a Dark Academia alternate universe. Okay. So the way this is going to work is I think we should go basically one at a time, adding sort of a plot point. We're just going to hardcore yes and it's going to get weird and stupid. And I think, Brooke, do you want to start us off since you, chose Dark Academia? Like, what's the scenario?
This is the wrong choice because it's too easy to just pull straight from here. There's a ghost. There's a ghost haunting the women's bathroom or something.
I was going to do the love hypothesis with necromancy.
Okay, Okay, we could totally do a non-dark because it's too easy to do dark with something that is already dark.
So instead, all right, I want to go high school.
Okay, so we're going high school, not grad school. High School Musical version. Oh, hell yes.
We have Harrow and Gideon. Gideon is a huge, sports star, but secretly would really like to do the musical. And meanwhile, Harrow is actually like a behind the scenes. I think Harrow wrote the play, but is maybe co-opted into being the main character. I'm passing it to Marie.
But it's not going well because she can't act. And she would really rather be the director, and there is a kind of quiet revolt happening. I'm passing it to Brooke.
Yes, and our primary competition for Gideon, who is wants to play the lead role in this musical, is Corona Beth, who is just insanely beautiful and popular, and obviously such a talented actress. And so she's up against some very stiff competition in auditioning for this role.
And there's a scene with Crux, who is the sports coach, who is just yelling at Gideon that she has to make a choice between being a sports star or, following her true path. One of those scenes from one of those movies. Crux has a mustache and he's wearing khaki pants and a striped polo shirt and he's spitting everywhere for some reason. But yes, that's the turning point. Crux is like, you need to make a decision. Are you going to college to be an athlete or blah, 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 blah.
Okay, meanwhile, behind, so basically after that happens, Gideon kind of wanders off and, just like kicking around the field in the dark and runs into Harrow, who's like furiously rewriting the script and freaking out about how poorly it's working. And part of the reason it's working poorly is that Harrow's trying to play this like romantic role, but has no experience with romance.
So as she's wandering around the sports field at night with her script, and Gideon is of course jogging around the track and doing her push-ups the way that she does to like calm her brain down, they run into each other, and Gideon like asks her like what the problem is, and Harrow huffily like tells her she wouldn't understand, and Gideon's like, well, of course I'd understand, and Harrow like gives in and tells her what the problem is, and Gideon's like, well, I have tons of experience with like romance, even though Gideon's like never kissed anybody.
This is where you kicked it to me?
Yeah.
Okay. So Gideon's put herself in a tough boat of acting as the romance expert in front of Harrow, and is decided that she's going to be the expert that Harrow needs to write her script, this romantic musical script. And so that means she does need experience, and they make a contract. The two of them are going to pretend to be a couple, and they're going to have to put on the act every single day at school, after school, on dates, when they're at like sports games together. Now they're a couple. It's a contract. They need to get the experience, and so that they can actually write the script.
And then finally, the conflict. Oh no, the state playoffs are the same night as the play. Whatever will Gideon do? And then, of course, we get Ianthe coming in. Ianthe has flooded the court or like screwed up the sprinkler system or something. She has delayed the state playoff game, and Gideon can make it to the play.
Whoa, all right.
This is Gideon makes it. Okay, Gideon makes it to the play just in time. And what you have to understand is we skipped over the audition scene where Corona actually won the audition, okay? Mm-hmm. Gideon did not get the part. But Gideon wanted to be there because more and more Gideon's having real feelings for Harrow, her imaginary girlfriend. And so she wanted to be there backstage. But at the last minute, Ianthe has both flooded, she allowed the scenario to happen where everyone can be there at the play, but unfortunately, Corona is nowhere to be found. It turns out Corona had no interest in playing the lead role at any point, and she and her sister have gone off to do something else. And so Gideon last minute has to fill in, and it goes very, very well. It's going shockingly well until the very moment when the two main characters, Harrow and Gideon, have to kiss, and they lean towards one another closer and closer and closer, and then the theater director says, "This still isn't how it happens."
Hey!
That was good.
There has to be somebody in our audience who actually writes fanfic. If you want to take that on for us, we'd love it.
Edit, improve.
Yeah, do a good job, and we will act it out for you in a bonus episode, I promise. Like, write us a script, and we will make it happen later. All right, well, now that we're all warmed up making up dumb stories, it does seem like it's time for some rampant speculation.
Rude.
Act 3. Possessed by an angry spirit and losing the war. Brooke and John may be only 2 years old, but their conspiracy theories are as good as any 10,000-year-old lictor. So, before we get into anything new, we've talked about this a little bit, but how do you feel about how all this has panned out and how far or how close you got?
I think we picked up on a lot of the, like, really relevant parts, and we just didn't quite nail how they stuck together, right? Like, we were really close, John.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty happy. I feel like we missed some things, but I'm like very happy with, I think, how close we got.
Yeah. It was really satisfying how she linked it all together, of the bubble in the river being this pocket dimension, because we picked up on the fact that it felt like it was in the river. And like, John, you seem to have taken that even a step further than I had realized and picked up on when you were talking about it. This full pocket dimension.
You guys did a great job with this.
But we could tell it felt like it was in the river. We noticed it was only the dead people. Like, we picked up on those details. We knew that, like, there was something that the work seemed to be related to trying to remove Gideon from her memory, and like, this was like, we were pretty close. We didn't nail it, but we got all the relevant details so that when they came together, you're like, oh, okay. I want to know how you guys felt about it when you first read it.
I read it so fast. It's so funny because I'm editing the episode where they do like the call signs, and the call sign is GP for Ortis the First. And Brooke's like, yeah, it's not even like subtle at this point. Like, how would you not get it? And I'm like, okay, Brooke.
Well, you go 2 chapters at a time and then have to reread and describe exactly what you think is happening in words.
Yeah.
Coherent.
Exactly. and when you, and like I've said this so many times, my experience reading this book was I read it probably over like 3 days, like 3 or 4 days, just blasted through it. And was just like zooming through, being like, what's going on? 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 And then you get to this point and you're like, ah! And then it makes it so that I immediately, as soon as I finished the book, spent like the next 48 hours binge listening to the book, so that on the reread, I like knew what was going on. And it was like really satisfying. So, yeah, I had a completely and totally different experience because I wasn't waiting to, like, find out and, like, think about what was happening.
So this book broke me, right? In the very beginning, I think it is in the Parados where we first get an example of Harrow says she's insane, and then I think the body turns to her and says, this isn't how it happens. And I was like, okay, great. This is explicit. This isn't how it happens. This is an alternate imagined reality. I was ready to go. I had no problem with it. And then it kept happening. And it kept happening and getting weirder. And I was like, Tamsin, why the fuck are you spending so much goddamn time on this alternate reality? We have established already that she erased her memories, or that she's like scrubbing them over or trying to create a new reality. But it kept getting weirder and weirder. The sleeper is so fucking bizarre. The tubes that are like pulsating in the hallway were like freaking me out. And I started to gaslight myself. So I started with the idea that she had psychologically like denied what had happened, not a river bubble, but like had scrubbed over her memories. And over the course of the book, I actually backtracked a lot. I started to gaslight myself more and more and more into wondering whether this
really
somehow
unreliable.
was real. Yeah, exactly. I was like, maybe the first round was the thing that was false. Like, I have no idea what's happening. And so we got to this point and I was like, oh my God, this was a third option that I had at no point considered. The idea that this is a play that's being conducted with real new people. It's a real event that is happening. It just is not the same event that happened at Canaan House.
I have a satisfying thing to tell you guys about that I didn't put it in the meme watch because I didn't remember whether or not it was still a spoiler, and it's not. Which is, we told you that Parados is it's like a choir.
In a Greek play, the chorus.
Greek tragedy.
It is also, as a definition, an elevation of earth behind a fortified place as a protection against attack from the rear.
What did you just say?
The Parados is not just this chorus part in a Greek play. Another definition for Parados, and you have to remember, Parados and Epiparados are these two parts where you get introduced to this isn't how it happens and the lobotomy. And the other definition is an elevation of earth behind a fortified place as a protection against attack from the rear.
It's an embankment you make for yourself so that you cannot be damaged from
a surprise attack.
Yeah.
God damn it.
It's
right?
Brilliant. I love that it works both ways. I think it's completely brilliant. All right. Well, we've talked a lot about what did happen. Brooke and John, what's going to happen next?
Good question. All right, let's start with the big juicy thing that you wanted to talk about earlier, John. The sleeper seems to be the embodiment of the invasive spirit. Does that seem right?
Yeah. Like Harrow, when the last time Ortis tries to kill Harrow, she draws the sword and like doesn't have like any of like the crushing whatever the hell stuff happen.
That's
So
what
at
I
that
wrote.
point-
The hateful sword has been pretty quiet.
Yeah. So I'm pretty firm in that the sleeper is the invasive spirit, and it was in the sword and jumped to Kithareya, or is like, basically like somewhere in like the Kithareya Harrow sword, like spiritual nebula, like in that area. Like I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, I'm 100% that the sleeper is the spirit.
If we trust what happened in the last book, and if we want to go off of information that we know about revenants and stuff like that, then it's possible that it was Kithareya's spirit that got trapped, or that got transferred to the sword when she was murdered, and then maybe Kithareya's spirit that's in the sword moved back into her body / into Harrow. Unclear how any of that would possibly work, but right, that would be through the sword. It would also be in the constellation of Kithareya as well, being relevant here.
I don't think it's Kithareya's spirit.
So you think that there was a different spirit in the sword, maybe even throughout the entire of Gideon the Ninth?
It's been Commander Wake the entire time. The sleeper's Commander Wake. Commander Wake is the sleeper. And the
Just for
sleeper's
the
in the
irony of it.
sword.
Yeah, I think that's a glaring hint. The other option is that it's the body in the tomb is what's haunting her and is the invasive spirit, because that's also something we've posited before.
Man, can you only be haunted by one thing at a time? Because like the body disappears and then Kithareya's body shows up. I still think the original body from the tomb has been haunting Harrow since she was a kid when she first opened it.
What are the motivations here? Like, do we have an angry, invasive spirit?
Well, I assume Commander Wake was the leader of the Blood of Eden. She just probably is a very vengeful spirit. Probably wants to kill everyone.
Why do you think she suddenly remembered her memories at this point? Was this like probably what was written in the letter about your imminent death? Something, there's like
I was actually curious. Did she like open the letter in event of your imminent death as she's bleeding out on the floor, and that's what we're gonna find out, and like that like triggers something for her to remember this? Is it just like a fail safe where it's like if she's about to die, like the necromantic theorem she did just like breaks? Yeah. Or is it like finally like we've just like the spirit is taking it over so much that like the whole thing is just falling apart?
Her lictorial powers maybe are failing to do the proper memory.
Yeah, her brain can't stab itself anymore because her necromantic powers are turned off, and so like it's reverting back to its base state.
So what happens next? We've been wrong every time we've tried to predict what the next chapter's gonna be, or the next, book's gonna be. She's stabbed. Do we think that Harrow, the body of Harrow survives this book?
I'm going to say no.
I don't think so either.
I think Harrow's dead at the end of this book.
And if only just to continue the trend of giving a new name to the next book, because the last one's dead.
I thought the river seems way more malleable than we've been led to believe. You can build stuff in it. You can make pocket dimensions. I'm still stuck on Augustine building walls. There is absolutely something here where God and the original lictors, I'm kind of starting to throw all the original lictors in there are all kinds of pieces of shit, and they did some weird stuff or fucked up death or something. There's something.
Oh yeah, we're being lied to on a systematic level.
Especially Augustine, I think, is probably not a good person. Along with God. But again, I'm still stuck on something's happening with time. There's too much emphasis on time and the timelines and everything doesn't line up.
Yeah, and the fact that, I agree that's it's a huge hole in the idea that, they are it would have taken 5 years to get from the Erebos to the Mithraeum. And instead, suddenly, within 8 months, we have Blood of Eden popping up. And they can't travel through the river as far as we know.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's one of those points where you're okay, we're being lied to now, officially. Maybe now that this whole system is broken, she accidentally ends up incorporating Gideon properly and turns into a real full lictor. That would suck.
Is that how she saves herself? Maybe she's not dead. Maybe she eats Gideon completely and then heals up.
If being aware of Gideon is part of the process of consuming Gideon's soul and becoming a proper lictor, then now that she's dying, that has potential. So
you know what? Shot in the dark. She finds a way to switch it out. She consumes Captain Wake's soul and ejects Gideon.
What?
And we get a lictor swap.
Freaky Friday.
Yeah. Yep. Captain Wake becomes the lictor battery for Harrow.
Oh, I love that. We have this extra soul available to us.
Yes. We're being haunted by a soul, so let's just fucking eat it.
Well, I guess we'll see if any of that happens next time when John and Brooke keep the lights on in Harrow the Ninth Chapters 44 through 47.
Just for content purposes, my wife has been unable to stop reading this book since she caught up to us. And so instead of, reading along with me and being a sounding board for my spoilers or being able to talk about it all, she just blew right past us. She's in chapter 50 plus now. She's going to start recording my reactions to certain things. So these are the last chapters. Apparently I get to read on my own time before my wife needs to be there to record me for my reaction.
If you, dear listener, are, like me and John, reading along for the first time, make sure you find our reading calendar on our website, frontline5th.podbean.com, or follow us on Instagram or TikTok. And to support us, you can buy merch or join our Patreon, both of which are linked in the show notes. If you like this podcast, please share it with your friends and give us a 5-star rating anywhere you can. And if you didn't like it, feel free to lie. Now head off to sleep, my baby necros. Mommy and Daddy have some deep spoilers to discuss.
Get in, losers. We're going speculating.
Act 4. The Flexibility of Metaphysical Solipsism.
Warning, this portion of the podcast is 98% spoilers and 2% snickering.
Seriously, we will spoil anything and everything in the series up through Nona the Ninth. If that's not what you want, turn back now. Okay, so I will say one thing about their rampant speculation, which is it's delightful to me that they have Cytherea's soul in the mix as a possible thing. Because what they don't realize is that Cytherea's body is now just a shell, the same way the sword was a shell, to carry Commander Wake. And Commander Wake is in just too many places at once. So actually, that's one of the things that I wanted to mention. We know that the Canaan House stage only exists when Harrow is unconscious. And I think part of the reason that the timelines are so dramatically off is that she's not there every time she's unconscious. We know that because she regularly dreams about the body.
But also, she's not there every time she's unconscious, but also she doesn't sleep.
Yeah, this is true. She rarely sleeps. We have whole sections where she's sleeping almost not at all. But additionally, she regularly dreams of the body. So I think, some of this discrepancy is there. However, I think it's interesting that Harrow can only think or be active in one place at a time. Either she can be in the Canaan House River bubble or she can be on the Mithraeum. But Wake's soul can be active in multiple places. She's about to be the sleeper in a huge fight at the same time as she's having an in-depth conversation with Jod. And I don't know what that means. Like maybe when your soul is dissociated from your body, you can split more effectively. And it's that straightforward.
Yeah, I don't know what it means about Wake's soul. Like, Wake is just weird, and I don't take her metaphysical properties
as normal or as like
normal or as
right.
canon.
You can't infer anything from that necessarily. No. Yeah, it's interesting.
I don't because of that specifically, because it's like everybody else has to be in certain places at certain times. And it seems like because she's in Kitharea's body, but she's also haunting Harrow. Yes. So it seems like she has split herself.
Right. I completely agree. And okay, so another thing in terms of...
Oh. Maybe it's that haunting is different than actually physically being somewhere.
What does that mean, though?
Like, Ianthe could be, like, in like, the unwanted guest in that struggle, Ianthe could, like, still be carrying on a conversation with somebody somewhere and be potentially having that struggle for the body.
That your consciousness can be kind of doing multiple things at once as long as they're not the same type of thing. But Harrow can't do that.
Your soul could be physically somewhere, but your consciousness might be doing something.
Yeah, it's just that it doesn't work for Harrow that way.
Or maybe it's because her soul isn't attached to anything that she can do that.
I think that's why. I think it's that there's no like tethering point for her soul. So it's, yeah, and anyway, we don't know, but it's interesting. It's weird soul theory. Okay, so in terms of other people being where they should not be, I recognize this time. I've never noticed this before, but now it's bothering me on a fundamental level. Crux and Iglamine show up very thoroughly in these alternate universes. Like they are not background characters, they are speaking. And one way is to very easily dismiss this as like Harrow has known these people from birth. She totally understands them. It's much easier for her to create accurate constructs of them. But every time I dismiss shit as just being psychology, it comes back to bite me in the ass. So there's this part of me that's like, are Crux and Iglamine like part dead? How, like, is there some seepage?
I think that she is temporarily, like, I think that they are asleep.
Okay, I like that she's literally pulled their living souls into these brief moments of these alternate universes.
Yeah.
Because they're acting with agency and they're acting in ways that I feel like Harrow would not act. Yeah, I like that a lot, actually. I just had this moment where I was like, have they been dead this whole time? Like, Sixth Sense, blah, blah, blah. Because we know they're alive at the end of Nona. For a given amount of alive is the problem. Everybody is in question. Yeah, I like the idea of pulling in their living souls. And the last thing that I wanted to mention is, of course, how much I love that Harrow's brain has one version with Gideon as the princess of the empire, as the, like, her Reverend Highness or whatever.
Interesting. I thought, like, I know that was kind of funny. I was like, be cool when Brooke was, like, spending so much time on that. And I was like...
But it also cracked me up. I was like, Brooke, it's definitely Gideon. Like, obviously, these people are... Anyway, all right. Well, what else? Because you've got a couple of things here that I think are interesting.
Well, so the first thing is I kind of forgot, but I love that Harrow, like, just straight out lays it out that she is doing the exact opposite of the eightfold word. She is directly undoing two of the steps, because two of the steps are to understand the soul and so and connect it and like plug it in or whatever. So she's unplugging and she is making sure that she cannot comprehend Gideon's soul.
I love
in
that.
An effort to not absorb it. And that is that's the only way that she can possibly think to not finish the process. It's
cool as this reverse engineering of the eightfold word.
Yeah, is to like literally stop two of the pieces of the eightfold word. Like there's 8 pieces. So if you like undo or like kind of pause 2 of the pieces in the download, then we're kind of in this limbo. Right?
Yeah. Actually, let's bring up something our newbie said that I had never considered. Do you have thoughts about why it's at this moment that Harrow finally remembers Gideon and that Gideon finally emerges in Harrow's unconscious body?
I think it is just like the body stress. And I think that she's been in the bubble, and the bubble is starting to like have enough stress on it that the AUs are the rules starting to shift. Like, I think it's becoming unstable.
And it's kind of destabilizing her whole disconnect from Gideon that she engineered. Yeah, that's interesting.
I think that it could only stay for so long. Yeah. And that once she got into, I think maybe this was why, because you have to remember at the very beginning, her very first rule for herself was stay alive.
Yes.
Because I think that she knew that if she got stressed too much, the pulling on that lictoral well would destabilize this too much.
It would pull Gideon all the way in. I like that a lot. So this is maybe, in fact, Jod and Giddy One's plan would have worked if she had ever made it close enough to actually dying.
Yes.
But this is the first time she actually makes it to a point where it's like, oh no, I think this might be it.
Yeah, and I think that that's why the AUs are happening, right? Is like the bubble is destabilizing, and so it is her brain trying to remember Gideon in these weird ways until she finally does.
Good. I love it.
There's also this like continual allusion to 9 months, but also very clearly that the lobotomy happens 9 months and 29 days. And I was like, that's not like 9 months. That's 9 months and 29 days. And then I remembered that we always say that pregnancy is 9 months, but we also say that pregnancy is 40 weeks. And it's because it's
I don't understand. I understand pregnancy is counted weirdly. It's counted from 2 weeks before conception, which is really fucking bizarre.
It's because you can't know when conception happened, right. So it's counted from your last period.
Right. But so there's an extra 2 weeks that's always added on.
But that's why it's 40 weeks. And so that's why this is still a pregnancy illusion.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really interesting because it's basically Harrow and Wake. Like, Wake carried Gideon for 9 months. Harrow has carried Wake and Gideon for 9 months.
And now everyone's emerging in a pool of blood. This is exactly what I imagined.
And that's why I thought it was so funny, because I was like, 9 months and 29 days. Like, that doesn't work with pregnancy. But it actually does, because pregnancy is counted weird.
Yeah, that's fabulous. Well, speaking of so I love that as an illusion. I love that in the background. And I actually really I had not picked up on the cuckoo illusion that our newbies went with, but that is an interesting one too. This idea of supplanting and then growing.
Yeah, well, and it's even funnier because they went on and on and on about it, and I even as they were talking, it's not until you said it again just now that I was like, oh no, she absolutely is a cuckoo. It's so funny that Harrow calls her that, because she is.
Very funny.
Damn.
That's all I got.
Okay. I have one more thing, which is, I think it was Brooke said, can you only be haunted? I don't know who said it. Can you only be haunted by one thing? Specifically because...
That's right, because John is convinced that the body going away and then seeing Cytherea, that's an exchange.
And the thing is that you can be haunted by more than one thing, because Harrow is haunted by so many things. Harrow is haunted by the 200 babies. Harrow is haunted by Wake. Harrow is haunted by the body. And so, yes, you can be haunted by more than one thing, but the body disappearing, we think, has more to do with the appearance of number 7.
I think that's right. Yeah, so I think it doesn't have to do with any of the other hauntings, but I agree. Harrow is the most haunted person alive.
It also, I think that we've brought this up before, but it keeps coming up just in kind of sideways little things in both I think TikTok theories and in the Reddit theories, that Harrow is essentially, because of the 200 ghosts, she is essentially a resurrection beast.
Interesting. She has effectively consumed all of these other living spirits that are giving her energy and power.
And rage.
Or alternatively, you could see it as like the collective death of a community all at once, which is kind of the point of these planetary revenants. It's a community death. Yeah.
But also, she has the vengeance and rage.
Oh, yeah. They were talking about which one's the angry spirit. And because Wake in this case is our angry spirit, but like Electo also, by definition, besetting sin is rage.
Yep. So I thought that I would drop that in the bucket for something to think about, because I was like, oh, as long as we're talking about haunting, I thought that was a really interesting thing to point out, is that I really like the idea of Harrow as a mini resurrection beast.
Oh, yeah. Act 5. See you next time, my little nunlets. Well, it looks like we've got an invasive soul to exercise, so we'll be back next week with Book, Bell, and Candle in Harrow the Ninth Chapters 44 through 47. If you want to follow along with us, our reading calendar is available on our website at frontlinefifth.podbean.com, and you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok, which are linked in the show notes. If you enjoyed this podcast, please tell your friends and give us a 5-star rating anywhere you can. And of course, if you didn't enjoy the podcast, feel free to lie. We have a Patreon, which you can join for access to bonus content every month. You can become a patron, and they're all adept at exorcisms, probably, at patreon.com/frontlinefifth. And you can check out our sick merch at our Redbubble store, linked in the show notes. Finally, if you have any fun theories you'd like to share with us, feel free to email us at frontlinefifth@gmail.com. And with that, I'll just remind you not to unlock any tombs or enter any doors without permission, because, ghosts. Bye!
Frontline Fifth is a Locked Tomb podcast conceived by Maria Adamako and starring Maria Adamako, Hannah Grenwald, Brooke Anderson, and John Ryan. Our cover art was designed and created by Maria Adamako, who also edited this episode. Our fabulous music was composed and recorded by Blake Anderson. Sonia Grenwald designs our killer merch. Hot. Gorgeous. The Locked Tomb series is a completely dope-ass book series by Tamsin Muir, who does not know we exist and is in no way affiliated with this podcast.